The Great Mothers? More like decent. You could even argue that they're the absentee mothers since they're not even in the right galaxy. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Today we're going to talk about the 2024 characters and what their ranking is relative to one another. Of course, this is all quite arbitrary, but I am the sole arbiter of truth and therefore have the answers you seek, even if you didn't realize you needed them. So, huge shout out to my patrons, by the way. You guys are amazing and I appreciate you. Seriously, I couldn't do this without you, especially lately. You know what I mean, I hope. You guys are amazing, so thank you so much, guys. And if you want to support this channel for free, folks, all you gotta do is hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, comment. Let's mount the algorithm. Let's mount it as much as we can going into the new year. It's a new year, a new mounting. Unless you want it to be the same old, which is also acceptable. Let's talk about this though, folks. So, how are we gonna rank them? I'm gonna rank them kind of weird. So first off, like I said, it's all arbitrary. I don't really have a great system in place to rank them because all these characters are tough to rank outside of context with each other. So what we're gonna do, we'll have the conquest characters ranking all on their own. We'll have the Galactic Legend / Legendary level characters ranked kind of on their own, and then some of the characters we're gonna rank twice because they'll be on each other's teams. It's kind of strange. So I guess the first thing I want to point out though, folks, is the Gunguns without Jar Jar and just on their own all suck. They really do. That's not me just hating the frogs, it's me acknowledging that they're all intended to work together, and they're not even very good unless you throw Jar Jar with them. So you need their legendary level character to be able to unlock their potential. Otherwise, they all suck. So the Gunguns are gonna be ranked a little bit later in this video, but for right now, you need to know, and I beseech you to acknowledge that the frogs aren't that fascinating. Now we have some ETHs just to cause some suspense, folks. Next ranking is Hu Yang, and yes, he's good in the context of a Galactic Legend, and I don't even have the Galactic Legend team as a team ranked on here because it's just pretty clearly and obviously the best, right? All the characters are just really good together, and the team is obviously better than any of the other characters or teams that were created this year. So, how do the individual characters rank? Hu Yang is alright, actually, in the context of some droid teams. The problem is, he's alright in the context of droid teams is just very similar to saying he sucks a whole lot because droids suck a whole lot, and he doesn't make them like good or anything. He makes them like slightly less mediocre, and I don't know about you guys. I would prefer no one describe me as a person who makes any given group or team slightly less mediocre. That sounds like an awful thing. So, Hu Yang, I'm sorry, bud. You're great on a Galactic Legend, and you suck everywhere else. That's fine. Those are your tags, so just deal with it, man. Sabine, she seems pretty good in the context of some Mandalorians. All of the characters, honestly, this year, guys, are pretty decent. I mean, the size of their kits are also their tomes. They're huge. They're crazy. You can read them for days and still not know what they do. Sabine does some cool stuff. She could go on a Mandalorian team because that's the tag she has. She has Spectre. She also has Unaligned Force User. I just don't see her lift it. Like, I don't see people farming just Sabine in the future just to put her like on a Seer team. Maybe, you know, like as a stopgap, sure, like throw her on So throw her on a Bo-Katan team. That's fine. I think she'll be okay there, but she's not built with those teams in mind. Yes, she has just some natural internal synergy with those teams because it's just kind of built in. Ufus go well with each other, and certain Ufus will buff other ones, but you can do better, honestly. She's great on the Ahsoka team. That's what she's intended for. So don't hate me too much for ranking her worse than Stap. Stap is, man, I am actually very disappointed. I've always loved the General Grievous squad. I've always loved it since day one. The mechanics have been something that I've just loved, and they're from a simpler day, right? And they used to kill things like Starkiller or CLS or any number of things. And now they don't really do that much. Stap, I thought, was going to usher in a new era of freedom and prosperity for the galaxy. But that wasn't actually true. Poor old Stap. He's good in the context of the raid. You have to give him that. And then, so he takes a bonus turn with his Omicron, and you think, oh, this is awesome. This is what I needed. But what you realize later, like trying to counter the old teams, like he doesn't open the door to counter anything new. He opens the door to be destroyed by the old stuff. In fact, like if you're facing a Starkiller team with Grievous, you want BB-8 still, because you need that extra speed. You don't want just one random guy taking a bonus turn. You want BB-8 giving your whole team 40% turn meter. That's what you want. So BB-8 is still the superior choice, even though you hemorrhage banners at that counter, it still works. And Stap is out. He doesn't replace like Magna Guard or something. You need a tank. He doesn't replace B2. You need someone to spam AoEs and kind of gain more turn meter and everything. You need B1 to be your turn meter target lock entrepreneur on that team, so to speak, to give new characters target lock. Stap doesn't have a place on that team. Now, against CLS, the argument is like, oh, well, yeah, sure, cool, he takes a bonus turn. But against CLS, Han takes a bonus turn first, and he's not kind to you. Like, you'd want Newt on that team instead, because he'll shoot Newt, or he'll shoot Magna Guard, one of the two. Magna Guard can take the heat, and Newt can't, but then if Newt dies, then Grievous takes a bonus turn, and you're off to the races with the turn meter train and everything. Stap just doesn't fill a primary role in that comp either. So, poor old Stap. And those are the two, that's like the team he wants to be on, is Grievous. So, once he's done with the raid, I ranked him higher than Huyang and Sabine because he's currently more useful. If eventually these two are used in a raid, then they'll be more useful than Stap. I am very disappointed. I really thought he was going to be the guy who made this team better, and he's just not. Merrick's interesting on his own because he can go with Inquisition, and that's fine. He stops some of the counters, I guess, like some of the things that people would use, some of the cheap counters against an Inquisition. At the end of the day, he's just gonna go with Bane, but he is interesting in the sense that, like, he'll boost your Inquisition team. He'll do some cool stuff, if you just put him, like, if he's one of those characters that you could actually farm him specifically for an Inquisition team, even if you didn't farm the rest of the Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano requirements. He could be okay. He could be fine. So, is it like wise to do that? I would guess not. I would guess that that's kind of a waste of time and resources unless your intent is to eventually go for Bane like kind of soon, but yeah, it's fine. And I think maybe I just said that he was part of Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano's requirements. He's for Bane, so apologies for misleading you. We'll see you in the comments, and I'll be like, did you watch the whole video? It'll be fun. We'll have that interaction. It'll be good. So, for a while I had these guys on separate places, the zombie bros. They were their own rankings, and at the end of the day, I decided that really you can't rank them separately. Yes, Enoch has no Night Sisters tag. And so the two other guys go with Night Sisters pretty well. A lot of times Enoch kind of rides the bench, or you can use Enoch with these two, and they do a little bit better than you would assume they do. At the end of the day, I think that they're still waiting for, like, they'll come into their own once Galactic Legend Thrawn is announced and part of, like, they'll get more of their team available. They do some cool stuff, and I think their best part is that they're part of an assault battle team, which probably puts them even a little bit higher in rank than they currently are. I just, on an individual level, like in 3s they do okay. In 5s, like, who goes with Dark Trooper Moff Gideon? No one really knows yet. Like, right now we're just about to get off of the Imperial Remnant Datacrons, and so we might have some answers pretty soon, but as of right now, it's a big question mark. I think that as assault battle dudes, they're great as just, like, essential personnel to be good in territory wars or territory battles. They're okay. Or not territory battles. They might be okay there too, but like they're okay. But they're in an incomplete team unless it's in 3s, and some people would argue that 3s isn't a real game mode. So not me. I actually like 3s a little bit. So Shin is she's good on her own, man. She doesn't have to be with Balin. Like, she does well with him. And if you have Balin, you're gonna want to put her with him. So I'm not saying like she can just operate on her own and Balin's fine without her. The team is going to suffer if you don't have Shin on it. But before you get Balin, she does pretty well on all the different UFU teams out there, and that's what she has. That's her tag. That she's an UFU. Unaligned Force user. Yes, she's a mercenary, but she doesn't do much with mercenary unless she's with Balin. So she does okay. She's fine. Like, maybe she should be ranked a little worse than the zombie bros just because she doesn't have her own assault battle, but I think she's good enough, like, just as an individual character and operator. Like, you would maybe farm her just to, like, add her to a Malik or a Malgus Malicos team. Gosh, there's so many teams. General Sindula is really interesting. Her kit, yes, it's for Spectre only, but you don't necessarily need Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano for that team to be a little bit ridiculous. They can do some stuff. Read her leadership, and then in a couple days once you're finished, read her unique, and then a couple more days when you're finished, realize that she actually has a really cool team, and if there is a raid in the future, which we can't really rate her abilities based off of a future raid we know nothing about, you'll realize that maybe she's going to be the lead on whatever raid team we have. Or maybe it'll be a 3v3 raid, or a 3-person raid like the Endor one. She'll be the leader for 2 characters, including Zeb, and otherwise then Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano will be the leader for the other 2. I don't really know exactly how that's going to split. Obviously, we don't know the mechanics, but her kit is really interesting and strong in the context of Spectre, but I would say that outside of Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano, she still does some really interesting stuff, and she is one of the most powerful characters they've released this year. Basically, all the characters are pretty good, though. And then I would say the Gunguns are next. So they're wonderful in the current raid. I can't argue that. They're great in the current raid, and we don't really know if like they've been okay. Otherwise, like, they're a strong team. They're better than Tuskens, for instance. Tuskens are like a raid exclusive team, kind of, right? So they're fine in that context. But it's like, if you don't have them, you're not missing a whole lot. You're not presenting a really challenging threat to your opponent. You're like, hey, do you have Trey available to beat my guys? Or any number of other teams at this point without a special Datacron. They're just frogs, and they die like frogs. Yes, they can present some difficulty, but the only real answers they present in GAC is on offense. I guess in territory wars, they can present some interesting stuff on defense. So they're a complete team. They have a lot of internal synergy. They do a lot of cool stuff. They're fine. They're also not required for anything other than the raid. they're not required yet for a single thing. And that makes them, in my estimation, the raid makes them not just frivolity, that like frivolous frogs, but they're mostly just luxury, guys, at this point. Yes, they're strong. No, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be worth it to break your bank for these guys, because it doesn't seem like they're gonna be required for anything. Now, the Great Mothers are a different story. Even CG acknowledged that they're special. Great Mothers are super fancy, and whereas I don't know how they're going to end up. We just got rid of the bespoke crons and the Night Sister crons. I don't know how they're going to hold up in TW on defense or even in GAC, but I do know that on offense they're going to have legs, and they do a really good job. They're also required for Rise of the Empire territory battles for a special mission. Maybe not required, but they help it. They assist with your winning it greatly. And obviously the requirement characters for Balin. So, and they open up the doors for a second Night Sisters team, which is arguably stronger than the other team. I'm working on a Faction Essentials video for this squad. We'll get that hopefully next week. We'll see, guys. Next up, I put Master Qui-Gon and Padawan Obi-Wan together because I don't see a context where you're like, oh yeah, I just farmed Qui-Gon and that's it, or I just farmed Obi-Wan. Like, other than if you're kind of dumb, that maybe you would do that. So, otherwise, I think they're a tandem. They go together. Like, they don't have to have Queen Amidala. Yes, they're better with her, but they're required-ish for the current raid that's going on, which is nice. But then their assault battle is clutch. It has a lot of really great rewards. And early game, I really think that this is a squad that a lot of people should work on early on, because they go with like a Qui-Gon, an OG Qui-Gon team really well. They'll go on a ton of Galactic Republic teams or just Jedi teams. They're really strong as a tandem. They go, like I said, really well on the assault battle with really good rewards that you get monthly at least, and they're really good. And I think they're going to continue to be kind of central to what roster is going to want to have moving forward, even if you don't have Queen Amidala. Now, and that's it, folks. That's it for them. I think they're the two best characters from this year, or at least the two most useful. Now, in terms of the conquest characters, I think Bane is the best. So we're going from best to worst here. Bane, he was technically released. His rules were released last year in 2023, but we didn't get him unlocked until this year. So we're not ranking Pointy Teeth Rey, for instance, this year. We'll rank her next year if I choose to do a video like that. But Bane, he solos a lot of things. He, I think, got a stealth nerf at some point, but man, he is still really good. He's still, he's amazing in 3s. He's amazing-ish in 5s, depending on what teams he's countering. He beats Balin, for instance, if your buttons don't disappear, like just happened to me on a traumatic GAC fight recently. He counters Queen Amidala, even when she had a good datacron. He does a really good job. Even with his stealth nerf. Does he kill Leia anymore? Not really. That's fun. Ezra is really strong. I don't know if we should rank him higher or lower than Bane. I think because Bane just kind of operates on his own and does really cool stuff on his own, and Ezra kind of needs a team, we're going to rank him a little lower. Ezra does not need Ahsoka on his team. He's one of the only Spectre characters, probably the only Spectre character, to actually be good without needing other Spectres. He could just, on the strength of his Jedi tag alone, he does some really cool stuff. You can put him with Revan, you can put him with Jedi Luke even, you can put him with Jedi Master Luke. All the Jedi teams probably benefit from him except for Qui-Gon. People like to put Ezra with Qui-Gon. This is another option to do it, and I would slap your wrist and say, bad, if I was there. Or actually, I would probably just watch an amusement. Queen Amidala is still actually really good. She's just less good than the others, and especially operating on her own. If she doesn't have Pow and Qui-Gon, she really kind of struggles. She's pretty good, though. She is really good. She's a conquest character. All of them are good. Luthen, aka Lotion, he's fine as well. Honestly, guys, even without a Datacron, he makes that Mon Mothma team do some really cool stuff. Or a Saw team do some really cool stuff. He boosts those teams really nicely. I love that he's kind of a turd polisher character, because Mon Mothma was the original turd polisher character who made a faction that was entirely irrelevant and ungood into something that was actually worth looking at, and then they slowly worked their way into complete irrelevance, and Lotion kind of just brought them back into relevance, at least when they have a good Datacron. And it also makes your territory battle fight using Saw's team significantly better. Plus, we have the promise of a ship eventually. I hope his ship is awesome in the show. If you haven't seen that show, I recommend at least looking up that clip. The Fondor is a really cool ship, and so we do have that. Obviously not part of his overall power ranking, but he's fine, guys. He does okay. He's the least of the he's the least necessary of all of the conquest characters, but that doesn't mean he's bad. Basically all the conquest characters are good. And then finally, this should come as no surprise, guys. As far as the unlock characters from this year, I would say Ahsoka is the best because she's a galactic legend, and that's obvious. And then we have Baylan Skoll, who he and his team, if you put his Omicrons on and you do some cool stuff, jump through some hoops, and everything, he kills, like, some stuff. He'll kill, like, Leia and probably a couple other galactic legends. Like, he's fine. He does good. He's very similar to, in output, to Bo-Katan Mandalore, which is kind of what you hope for. That's fine. That's what you want. And you only need 2 characters. You need 2 characters to unlock him anyways. But then you have 2 other characters you can fill in from the rest of your roster that you probably already have relicked. Or maybe you do. Like Hondo, for instance, goes really well with him. Or like L3, I think. Is it L3 that does well? Anyways, he does some cool stuff. He does fine. And then finally, the Sith Lord himself. Yeah, giving that thumbs up, dude. You should be a politician and give emergency powers to the Chancellor, dude. That'll be epic. He is what he is, guys. He's the only reason the Gunguns are actually good at all. And like I said, they're a pretty luxury team outside of the raid. So, anyways, that's it. That's the characters. I didn't rank the 2 ships. We got the Comeuppance, which isn't that crazy? That was actually part of this set this year. The Comeuppance and the Punishing One, they're both pretty good ships, and I recommend you get both of them. Otherwise, I don't know how you rank Comeuppance versus Gunguns. What a weird question. Stop asking that. So, that's it, guys. Where would you rank things? I mean, obviously, my ranking is 100% airtight and not open to debate, but I would be interested to find what places you guys were wrong about the rankings, your preconceived notions of what you had previously thought to be right. And I mean, obviously some thanks in the comments for me changing your mind in dramatic ways to finally see the truth. I'm sorry. It's going overboard. But guys, I would love to hear what your thoughts are. How do you like the characters from this year? We had an unprecedented number of characters released this year, and it was overwhelming and it was crazy, but the characters weren't bad, right? I think they were good overall. Maybe overwhelming. Maybe we don't want that many next time, but I think I'm happy with the characters and their kits and what they did, what they brought to the game. Those were fine. Maybe make them less overwhelming CG. I don't know. But I would love to hear what your thoughts are, guys. So I'm going to leave you here. Leave comments. Hit that like, subscribe button if you wouldn't mind, folks. I love all of you. Thank you all so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Zareth prevails and is the sole arbiter of truth when ranking characters from 2024, obviously.